This is Timmy. Timmy clicks on tier list videos but doesn't actually watch them. Timmy just scrolls to the end of the video and looks at the finished tier list. Then Timmy gets mad and leaves nasty comments without having any context around the placements. Don't be like Timmy. Hey everybody, and welcome to my PUG healer tier list for Dragonflight Season 4 Mythic Plus. In this video, I'm going to rank all the healing specs in Mythic Plus based around a simple question. If I wanted to successfully PUG keys to a reasonably competitive level, but short of ultra hardcore top 0.1% title level, what healer would you recommend to me? First and foremost, know that every spec is viable and capable of healing extremely high keys based on healing throughput, so with that point out of the way, here's my criteria. First of all, does the spec's healing style make it viable for most encounters? Does the spec bring utility to the table that makes it lucrative to less coordinated PUG groups? Is the spec good at surviving? And what is the community perception of the spec? I know this one is kind of awkward, but if you PUG a lot, you know this is a thing. Even though the high-end meta is downright meaningless and lower and mid-level PUG keys can only be somewhat loosely applied to higher ones, you're kidding yourself if you think all the specs are going to get the same level of priority when it comes to group invites. So we might as well just accept the fact and include it in what makes the spec good at PUGing, because if you never get invited to anything, the PUG experience is not going to be much fun. And then finally, what about damage? In my experience, PUGing into the top 1% of players in most seasons, healer damage really matters very little in all but the highest of keys. So I'll include it if it's a real benefit or detriment to the spec, but otherwise, we're not going to spend too much time on it. So without further ado, let's start at the top. For Season 4, my number 1 PUG healer is Resto Druid. Resto Druid has big time healing throughput and a healing style that makes it viable for just about any encounter, AoE, burst, rot damage, on the move, spot healing. Resto Druid is pretty much good at everything. The Grove Guardian playstyle makes Resto Druid even more PUG friendly in my opinion, as it's much less rampy than it's been in the past, which is kind of ironic since Druid is typically a strong Mythic Plus healer anyway. Druid's carrying their Season 3 tier set right back over into Season 4, and I expect it to pretty much pick up where it left off as one of the best healers for all levels of play. But for PUGs, Resto Druid brings a lot of utility to the table in a B-Res, AoE stun, and your choice of Soothe, Vortex, Mass Entangle, Typhoon, and Hibernate to handle just about every Mythic Plus affix, and a really well-rounded defensive kit to keep yourself upright. The only real downside is the lack of a kick, as Skullbass is just not really a viable talent to take without completely ruining your talent tree. Community perception is good for Druids. They're widely considered to be one of the best Mythic Plus healers right now, along with Disc Priest and Mistweaver Monk, but in my opinion, when you compare the tools Druid brings to a random PUG, it beats out both of those two. Right behind Druid, I'm going to put Mistweaver Monk. Monk pretty much just slaps in every way imaginable right now. There's not much reason why that would be changing in Season 4. Unsurprisingly, Monk is bringing back their fantastic Season 3 set and probably has the best downright healing throughput in the game for Mythic Plus. Their utility is great, similar to Druid. They do get access to a kick as well, which is nice. In fact, it was really hard to pick between these two for me. It was sort of a toss-up. I think they're both going to be fantastic choices for PUGing in Season 4. I guess the only reason I put Druid ahead is that I like their overall kit a little bit better, and Monk has long been plagued by their lack of B-Res or Bloodlust. On the bright side though, especially for longtime Monk players, community perception of Mistweaver is at an all-time high. They're good. Everyone knows it, so expect no issues getting an invite on this spec. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to diverge a bit. Druid and Monk are just great specs right now, regardless of level of play. But I think the mid-level is where the competitive and PUG scene are going to differ some. So in the A tier, I'm putting my first controversial pick, Resto Shaman. Okay, so I ended up maining Resto Shaman in Season 3 of Dragonflight, and maybe I'm a little bit biased, but guys, make no mistake, this healer can carry PUGs. They have a cooldown for every situation, a great healing kit, but most importantly, just a fantastic utility kit for PUGs. You have the best healer kick in the game, Cap Totem, Thunderstorm, all for interrupting mobs, some great defensive tools, and Bloodlust will also make you fit nicely into some groups that need it. Community perception is kind of lukewarm though, and I found that in higher level PUG keys, can be a struggle to get an invite sometimes. Shaman is getting their Season 1 tier set back, which is okay, but nothing spectacular, and for what it's worth, Shaman damage is kind of unimpressive unless you're allowed to just sit and free cast, so even though on a competitive level tier list you'll likely see Shaman ranked lower, I think it's a true heavyweight in the PUG scene if you want to just be able to handle everything yourself. On to the B tier. I could see Paladin making a serious comeback in Season 2, guys. They're getting their massive Season 2 tier set bonus back, and those of us that remembered Season 2 of Dragonflight know that Paladin's kit is uniquely suited for some of these dungeons, especially the ones where removing bleeds is beneficial. However, these dungeons have undergone a series of nerfs, and that may not be as impactful as it once was. Still, there's a reason that Paladin is almost always a top tier healer in Mythic Plus metas. They have a load of utility and survivability as well as an immunity. Paladin does come in from an unenviable spot in Dragonflight Season 3 though. Their healing and damage output is generally just kind of low. Community perception around Holy Paladin is not great right now. You have to also keep in mind that both Ret and Prot Paladins are pretty popular at the moment, and groups may not be keen on stacking Pallies. This is where things get really tough, and I'll probably take some heat for this, but let's talk Disc Priest and why I have it ranked so low. Disc is currently considered quite good in Dragonflight Season 3, and they're running back their Season 3 tier set bonus, so by all accounts they should continue to be very good. But on a PUG tier list, it's kind of hard to rank any priest spec super high at the moment. With no kick or real CC to speak of, no B-res, no bloodlust, you just don't bring a lot to the table. Playing priests and pugs can be painful at times as you watch things unfold that you just can't do anything about. Mass Dispel will always be the king of Bursting Week, and MD does have some great uses in some of these returning Dragonflight dungeons. However, watch out for the return of Shadow Priest as well. But don't get me wrong, if your teammates are covering their end, Disc is a fantastic healer. And I have it ahead of Holy mainly because of its survivability, with actual damage reductions making it a lot easier to keep alive. No doubt on a competitive tier list, Disc ranks much higher, and you'll have community perception on your side as Priest is a popular pick right now. But in PUG settings where you often need to bring an overabundance of kicks and stops because of lack of communication, I don't feel like I can put this any higher. It's kind of a shame what's happened to Preservation Evoker really. This spec is more of a victim of AUG than it is really anything else, and because of AUG Evoker, it seems like the spec has nearly gone extinct. Really, Evoker has all the tools necessary to be an amazing PUG healer, great healing output, and a downright silly utility kit. They'll also have the ability to dispel bleeds going for them, which, as we've already talked about, is a big deal in some of these dungeons, but for two reasons, I've chosen to rank them on the lower end of the tier list. First of all, as we've already said, community perception is not great around this spec at the moment. Until AUG actually drops off, it seems like Preservation, and Devastation for that matter, are going to continue to suffer. Secondly, the 30-yard range can definitely be an issue on a few of the encounters we'll have to deal with. Still, I just see Preservation Evokers having a difficult time finding groups in Season 4, and I have a hard time finding a reason to put them ahead of any of the aforementioned healers, despite their definite viability. So Holy Priest just underwent their 8,732nd rework, and it still manages to continue to suffer for the exact same reasons it always does. There's nothing wrong with Holy's healing. In fact, it's probably more PUG friendly than Disc's healing kit because it's reactive and you can absolutely chunk off single target heals to keep people from dying. Their damage is actually insane post rework. It's the highest of any healer, at least at the moment, bar none. But take everything I said about Disc Priest and basically double it. Holy Priest has a combination of the worst utility and survivability of all healers in the game. It's kind of laughable to look at what some of the other healers are capable of doing compared to Holy Priest. And in a PUG setting, healer DPS is not going to be enough to save you from the fact that you just don't have anything to prevent damage from going out or any sort of damage reduction for anyone. I say this not because I dislike the spec or anything. I've always had a soft spot for Holy and I play it pretty much every season at some point or other. I really hope that going into War Within, Blizzard rethinks their stance on the priest specs and why they're so sorely lacking in the utility and personal defensive department. Honestly, I'd say healer balance is in a pretty decent spot right now, and I think Season 4 has the potential to make it even better than Season 3 with the greatest hits tier set thing we've got going on. So I know I have some unusual choices here. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments section. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.